All right, we are recording. All right, we're here, keeping it real with Brandon Luckett. He is on today for us to talk about the postseason, talk about his background, the EMOM company. We're going to talk about his faith a little bit, but the very first thing that we do is what I like to call getting slaughtered by a games athlete. And what do we got here, Brandon? Brandon programmed this one. It was programmed specifically for someone with a tweaked back, so we didn't have a lot of hinging. Give it to us.
Yeah, so we just went ahead and made it quick and dirty. It was 75 double unders, 20 strict handstand push-ups, and 20 bench press at 155 and 105. So yeah, it was a quick one.
Yeah, real quick. So I would like to say off the bat, something about the double unders. Shoot, what did I forget? So turns out I feel bad. So I actually redid this. And here's why. My camera angle was really bad. You couldn't see half of it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I redid it, and I was kind of sore from all the shoulder and bench because I haven't been doing much strength. And in the redo, unfortunately, I had a no rep that I knew was a no rep because I came off the wall, and another one was borderline. So I only ended up with 19 strict handstand push-ups. Lost count.
You no rep yourself? That's so honest. I love it.
Well, I mean, if it's up here, I have to like skip through. So I try to skip through and then just get to the reps since I'm like taking a minute between each one. But it wasn't honest. It was obvious is what it was. So
look at your transition over to that wall. My goodness. That's why I got you. You got to run all the way over there.
That's exactly why, dude. That was the whole thing. Yeah. All right, here we go. I'm going to roll it.
Let's go.
Working out against the 4 times CrossFit games athlete. You're the 4 times CrossFit games athlete, Mr. Brandon Luckett. He's going really fast. Yeah, he's going really fast.
One thing, the line about the double unders is because I made the song yesterday, and during my workout yesterday, I tripped like 6 times. So it doesn't really add up. I say something about tripping, but I digress.
This AI song is hilarious.
Awesome.
He is not washed
awesome.
Up. He is only 29, I think. He's got an EMOM company. Yeah, he's Brandon Luckett. I think he is a doctor or a physicist or something real smart. Yeah, something real smart. Oh, anything to distract from the workout, anything to take your attention away from the screen. Attention away from the screen. Did you know he was a wrestler from Louisiana? And he works out a lot in his driveway. Yeah, a lot in his driveway. I bet the neighbors are intimidated. And then there's Grant, yeah, I am Grant. And here is my full list of excuses. I haven't done strength in at least 4 months. I should have started the video over on the double unders. Why wouldn't I just start over? And it was like 100 degrees. The wrong song was playing in my iPod. I was dehydrated and I have some sort of torn shoulder. I also didn't take steroids, darling. I just thought of a brilliant idea. Oh, why didn't I take steroids? I should have tried some steroids. Hey, I got an idea. I could do steroids. I wonder if they will work by next week, so then I can beat the games after me.
Oh my gosh, dude!
Amazing, dude.
I freaking love making those songs. So anyway, you are done. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. And I am, when you came off the bench, were you actually surprised that, were you planning on going unbroken? You had a look on your face.
Oh, I was actually, surprised at how like blown up my triceps were already.
I feel a little bit. I mean, so yeah, this was hard. You'll see the horrible no rep in here somewhere. And one was close, but basically, so my strategy going into today, since I did it twice, it took me 11 minutes. Yes, 20 handstand push-ups, I'm out of shape right now. I haven't been doing anything basically for 4 months. I've had some injuries. I've just been doing some light Olympic stuff, about a half hour a day. Just started training again. So I am like at the worst I've been in a while. But I will say for this workout, this is a workout that always gets me. All last year, the shoulders and strict handstand push-ups were a problem. So even if I was peak, this would be a problem for me. And then the
Those
weight.
no reps got you, man.
I can't believe the weight, the 155, dude. I was like, it felt so freaking heavy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not like a good bencher or anything. So like I knew it was gonna be pretty bad. But like it got, I mean,
muscle endurance has been a problem for a while. Even when I felt like my engine was getting good last year. I did singles on purpose this time. I think I did 2 a few times. Oh, there's going to be a great part. I totally fail on the 17th rep.
Oh no.
Yeah. Somebody else was doing a workout next to me. So I didn't have the clips on purpose because I didn't want to bother him.
I'm lucky enough that I haven't gotten trapped underneath a bench press bar in my garage by myself yet. So
have you seen that video of me or no?
No.
Oh, I'll have to send it
Oh
to
no.
So yeah, I have a video that's funny. It's me with, I think it's 315. I was a lot bigger, like I was fat, and it was during COVID, and I lose it, and I'm in the video. I'm like, Amber, and I'm like trying to get it off, and I was fine, but at least it was 3 plates.
Dude, I mean, you can make a light bench press so hard in a workout. Like, I don't bench press heavy, and I'm honestly, I've never touched over like 275. So like,
really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Oh, but you haven't. You could go higher than that, or you could hit that.
Press heavy. Right? Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I could. I've never tried.
That's crazy.
It's possible that I might not be able to.
So last year, I was a year ago, I weighed a little bit more. I'm like 175 right now. I was 195, maybe 198 last year, and I ran like a 10-minute mile, so I needed to lose a little bit of weight. I'm only 5'8", but I hit 315 last year. I was like, we're a really small gym, and I was the strongest in the gym, but if I went in there now, it might only be like 250 if I had to guess. But even then, like if you can do that much, having 155 feel so heavy is nuts.
I love it though.
That was perfectly programmed. You absolutely slaughtered me on the first one with Ty Jenkins. I programmed it on purpose to be something like, all right, there's no separator here. It's just like, how long am I going to wait before I jump up the rope? So
yeah.
Well, cool, man. The first thing I want to talk about that was interesting. Was I correct on I just did a brief look up of some things. Louisiana wrestling, correct?
Yes, sir.
State champ 5A. So that's not like the top one, right?
It's the biggest in Louisiana.
The 5A is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's legit then.
Yeah, that's the biggest division in Louisiana.
Wow. No, that's impressive. Was it 3-time state champ?
2-time state champion. Okay. When I was a sophomore, I was third. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. Was it what weight were you senior year?
160.
Okay. Yeah. I was 145. It was
you wrestled?
Yeah. You know, I wrestled all growing up and then when I got to high school, I switched schools. I didn't do it, and I didn't come out till my senior year, and I started kind of getting good again at the end of the season. So basically, I was a slightly above average wrestler. I did some tournaments in college, just open tournaments, and I felt like I was a lot better. But I love wrestling. Wish I would have done it more. So,
what state?
Ohio. It's a tough state.
Oh, Ohio's got incredible wrestling community. They're
nuts.
Dude,
it really is. And that's my point, is that I felt like I was in a brutal division that year, especially. It was one of the guys that was do you remember the name by chance? Because this is going way back. I'm like 8 years older than you. It was do you remember Dustin Schlater or no?
Yeah, I know the name.
Okay. Yeah. He was he went on and was, I think he went to him and Metcalf. Metcalf went to Michigan. They were both 4-time state champs. Metcalf did better in college, won the national title. I think Schlater took second and never won. I'm not sure, but it was a stacked division. And the biggest regret I have is that in can't remember how it went in our state. I think it was sectionals, then districts. Is that how you went?
We have city tournaments and then state tournaments. Yeah.
So the guy who lost to Dustin Schlater we were D1, the highest division. The guy who lost in the state championship at 145, he actually got tech followed by him, but he was good. He was a 3-time state champ in Pennsylvania, then came to Ohio, and he was my matchup in like first or second round or something, maybe second round. And it's funny, he got in so deep on a fireman's carry that I flipped him. To this day, all I had to do was cover and squeeze, and he was done. But because in my mind, I didn't expect to be there, he got out of it somehow. Like I was
ready for it.
I wasn't ready for it. If I would have just covered and he was done, like he was totally on his back. But yeah, so
that's awesome. I love wrestling.
Love wrestling. To this day, I've looked up like adult wrestling places and stuff. But that's my question is wrestling. So it seems like wrestlers, there's muscle endurance, there's engine, a lot of the things that are like really good for CrossFit. Do you feel like wrestling helped you going into CrossFit? And do you think that having an elite wrestling background translates good to becoming a good CrossFitter?
Yeah, I think actually more so than the physical side of it. Because like, honestly, I wouldn't consider myself like anything like extraordinary or exceptional physically.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the strongest guy. I'm not the best runner. I'm just like decent kind of all around. Like I have no strengths and I have no really bad weaknesses, I guess. But the biggest thing that came from wrestling, I think, was like the mental side of it. Like if you've ever wrestled, if you've ever done like even like jiu-jitsu or martial arts, you kind of know like the discipline it requires to be like the mental strength and like you have to have like quite a lot of bravery in any sport, but like specifically wrestling, going into like basically hand-to-hand combat with like another individual. But aside from that, like the weight cutting, all the training I would do outside of practice, like dude, I would train every morning in like either my backyard or like a run, or I would push my truck up and down the street as like sled pushes. I didn't have a sled, but I had a truck. So my dad would just sit in neutral and steer it while I pushed it. Like the weight cutting, that
was hard.
Dude. Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of mental just discipline. And just like the grind.
Delayed gratification.
Yeah. I think wrestling is just where I learned to grind mentally and physically.
That's cool. Out of curiosity, what was your style? Everybody has a few like moves. Was it single leg, double leg? Were you a defensive wrestler? What did you do?
I was very offensive.
Nice.
I wasn't like the greatest technically, I don't think, but I was pretty fast. I was flexible. I was long and lanky. I was like 5'10" or 5'11", 160 pounds. So I was pretty lanky. I had a really good engine. And so even if it was close and like through the first and second period, the third period, I could kind of keep a decent pace and kind of start scoring on people. But I love wrestling on my feet. Because like I learned how to chain wrestle pretty well. And so like I just kept the match going, and like there was like I just didn't really stop moving. I was pretty good at that. And so more often than not, I won either by like a major or tech fall, like running points up instead of
trying nice. Yeah. Well, if we ever see each other in a casual environment, I will literally go takedowns with you. I'm known to be like takedowns like on the spot.
Anyone who's ever wrestled, who meets anybody who's ever wrestled, they're immediately like, dude, just pulling arms.
That's right.
Throw bys, whatever.
I used to like doing a Russian tie, and that was a move I had. But sweet, man. So you were so then you grew up in Louisiana, and you train. It looks like you do a lot at home, but you're also connected to a gym. Where are you at right now? Just wanted to get a background of like, I know you do obviously through the EMOM company, you do programming. Do you have coaches as well? Just kind of want to get the background of where and how you do your training.
Like, do I have a coach?
Yeah. So I guess first, do you have a coach?
I don't have a coach.
Oh, no. Interesting.
This is like the first time I've competed as an individual without a coach.
Okay.
So the last time I competed individually was 2021. That was the last time I had a coach. It was Seth Page, who does Jump Ship. known him for a long time. He was awesome.
Yeah.
But I stopped competing in 2022. Didn't compete that year. Started the EMOM company. Just started writing programming. And when I did team last year and individual this year, it's pretty much like if I'm writing program for other people and I don't trust it enough for myself, it's like, what am I doing? So
That's
I've
a good
just
point.
been following my own program.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's gone well. It's taught me quite a lot of trust and actually being able to look at what I'm doing and how the flow of the season should go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I train a lot in my garage. But I don't have everything here. I can't do wall balls, rope climbs, or ring muscle ups. That's pretty much the limits I have. No pegboard. I think my roof's 12 feet. So it's just not quite, or maybe it's 11 or 10 feet. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not tall enough for wall balls. There's nowhere to hang a rope, nowhere to hang a rings.
Oh, so, darn. I love wall balls.
I mean, I do actually, dude, I program a lot.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
So, and, most of the time, if I can do the stuff in my garage, I'll stay home because I love training by myself now.
Yep.
Otherwise, I go to CrossFit Franco's, which is not too far away from the house, and that's my affiliate.
Awesome. Cool.
Hold on, I'm going to let my dog inside.
Oh, all good, dude. Do your thing.
It's going to take me 2 seconds.
All good.
Come on. There we go.
Nice. Okay, and then the other thing I got to ask is, you've got the EMOM company, you're CrossFitting. Are you still a full-time physicist?
I'm a full-time physicist.
Okay, you got to give me now it's going to go over my head if you get detailed, but you got to give me the brief background of what it is that you do there.
Yeah, so I'm a medical physicist. We work with radiation in medicine. Yeah. And so I work on the diagnostic image. You can do cancer therapy, working with linear accelerators and, tumor. Basically, it's mostly cancer treatment and radiation therapy. Yeah. I work in diagnostic imaging and nuclear medicine, which is, x-rays, CTs, mammography, ultrasound, MRI. So I do a lot of quality assurance on that side for hospitals and, keeping them in line with either state or federal regulations. Then we also work with nuclear medicine, which is radioactive tracers, binded to chemical products that are taken up in the body and metabolized in the body in certain ways.
Yeah.
So whether it's in metabolized in the bone or metabolized in the cardiac muscles or in the liver or something like that, use it to image different, metabolic processes in the body.
Sure.
So that's what I work with. We wear a bunch of different hats, whether it's through quality assurance, a liaison between the hospital or the clinic and the regulators or the governing bodies, whether it's state or federal. Yeah. We do a little bit of construction in terms of calculating how much lead is needed in the walls for, radiation protection. We do, employee radiation protection. So we do a bunch of different things. Yeah. But I got a degree in physics to get here.
Yeah. So during game season, is it hard to juggle or is it flexible enough that you're able to kind of do good at both? What's that like?
It's super challenging. But because I work with my father, so we own the company together. I have my work schedule. I have no times that I have to work. It's not
Same here.
I've got to be in the office from 9 until 5. I have my list of work that's got to get done before basically a due date. Okay. So if I can front load work, and then give myself, a week or two for traveling for competing, that's kind of the best case scenario. Around semis, I know a lot of my focus was definitely on competing, which meant that, work basically I did a lot of work leading into semis, and then basically for 3 weeks I was just doing, reports and stuff on in my spare time. Yeah. Not any really hands-on work, not much of it. Yeah. And then when I got home, I was like, dude, I've got so much. So I jumped back into trying to catch up with all that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think there's seasons and there's waves, where the waves come in and you're like, okay, I've got to handle all this stuff. Yeah. Because not only do I train for CrossFit several hours every day, not only do I work full time as a physicist, with basically no schedule, because I could start work at 5:30 or 6 a.m. or I might not start until 5:30 p.m. Yeah. So there's no schedule. but I also write almost all of the program for the EMOM company and do all of that. So it's a lot, but I genuinely enjoy working. So I kind of wake up at 5 a.m., start working at 5:30 a.m. on my couch.
Yep.
Then I'll train. Then I'll go to work or sit on my couch and do reports or, computer work.
Yeah.
And then I'll train again, and then I'll come home and go to sleep.
Man, there's nothing better than discipline and learning it at a young age. I wish I had, because I go in waves. The waves are getting smaller, right? Like having consistency over time is huge, and it's difficult to do because sometimes you get lost in the monotony of it. But I've always kind of been in waves. And even right now, like as we talked at the beginning, I'm thinking in my head, how the heck did I get to a place where now I did have a purpose? My Olympics been an issue for a long time, like my form, and I've got a shoulder thing that isn't bothered by Olympic. I just can't, it's bothered by bar work, ring work. So basically I was doing that every day, filming it, but all I was doing every day for like 3 months maybe is light Olympic, working on form. And I realized, man, now suddenly I like lost it all, And so I've got to kick it into high gear again. But I think I saw a quote. It might've been on the EMOM Instagram or something. There was a quote about, what was it? Better the next day, or win the next day, or beat tomorrow, something like that. I can't remember, but it was motivational. And but
because I probably wrote it.
No, I'll remind you what it is later. I think I've seen you say it a couple times, so I'm butchering it. But yeah, man, and that's the other thing you can do. Like for me, if I ever hit a period of inconsistency, whether it be work or working out, in the past, I've like kind of sulked about it a little bit and just sat there in it. You can't do that though, right? You got to wake up the next. What can you do about it? You can't. Right. You don't have time. You take a quick look at it to learn what you can, but then you can't sulk and regret or anything like that. You have to wake up the next day and just do whatever you can. So
yeah, I've always kind of like explained it as like, regardless of your situation, you have a deck of cards that you can play.
Yeah.
And so you have to play your deck of cards as best you can. And maybe you can trade them in and get a better deck. But like at the moment, you have to play what you have. And so whether you have restrictions with job or family or whatever it might be, you also have these other opportunities to play your cards. And so you simply play them as best you can and hope that tomorrow that you can play a better deck.
100%. Yeah, that's helped me a lot. Perfect. All right. I'm going to set the next timer here. We did the background. So, okay, getting into the season a little bit here. While I did do some research, 6 months ago, I didn't know. And the only people I knew was probably Froning and Frazier. I didn't know who Dave Castro was. I didn't know who anybody was. I've done CrossFit for 3 years, but until I got to Kansas, I was in San Diego. I basically just lifted heavy and like did the workouts and never really learned anything. And in a typical 1 hour class, the coaches didn't have a ton of time for one-on-one. So like I literally started doing toes to bar 10 months ago and ring muscle ups and all that. And I really dedicated myself to learning all that. And so, so I don't, as far as the background and stuff, like I'm just catching up on everything. It's fun because going into next year, the season, I've talked to a few people on the show. I'll have watched semifinals. I've learned the names and things like that. But basically I'm coming from a background of somebody who is new to the professional side of the sport. So I know of the whole John Young thing. I'm just curious where that came from. Did he say on like barbell spin, was he like making projections or something and said you were washed up? I want to know the background on that.
Yeah, it started. So I know the gentleman, Saud Salshami, who programs and like he puts on the Dubai Fitness Championships.
Yep.
I know him through the EMOM company.
Got it.
And he wanted us to write an event for Dubai that was an EMOM, the first EMOM in competition, basically.
It's awesome.
So we did that. But through that, he was also like, you're in decent shape. Why don't you go ahead and test all the events so that I can have accurate time caps for all the events? And so I tested them as he gave them to me.
Yeah.
And he used the time caps that I gave him.
Yep.
But when it came to like the competition, what had happened was like they weren't able to get all the equipment shipped over from Rogue. And so a lot of the events had to change, and they weren't what I had done.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these time caps were super strict, like way too tight. And like not enough people were like not enough people were finishing them or getting like where they needed to be. So like sometimes like they were just, it wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
And in a review show with the barbell spin, they were saying like, I think Brandon Luckett like tested the events or whatever. And John Young was like, look, I know Brandon went to the games in 2018, but he's not that fit anymore. And there's no way he like did any of these events in these time caps, which is right. Cause I didn't test the events that were given. I tested different events.
Yeah.
But it basically like, he's like, in summary, basically called me washed up in that podcast. Yeah. And then I actually, at that time, I hadn't decided to compete as an individual at all. That decision didn't come until a good bit later, but that's where it started. And then pretty much in every prediction since then, he said like I wouldn't make the next stage, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know him personally. I've had a few interactions with him. I do like him. He's a nice guy, but I like the fact that he's so passionate about like everything, because I'm kind of the same way. I can be like arguing about like, I don't know which place has the best steak. And the next thing I know, I'll be like in a passionate argument about it. And I'll be like, what am I even arguing about? So I like the fact that whatever he's talking about, he gets behind. He's some interesting personalities in the space for sure. And that shirt was awesome. I really like it. You said you could still pre-order them or what?
Yeah, we're about to. I think we closed pre-ordering now because we sold a good bit of them. But
I bet. Yeah,
we keep like ordering them as they come in, and that's just cool. A little bit taxing to do it one at a time now.
Yeah, I bet. I hear you. So getting into the postseason a little bit, I did notice, like you said, that it's interesting that you say that you're not the best at anything. You're not the worst, because very consistent scores. One thing I was curious about is everybody talks about peaking and all that stuff, right? And I asked Ty Jenkins the same thing. And obviously he hasn't been around. I mean, I know he did it with the teen game, so he does know, but you've been doing this a little bit longer. And I'm curious about that from you. Because in the open, if I'm not mistaken, you kind of killed it in the open, didn't you?
I did well. I think I was like 9th or something.
Yeah. Okay. So how does that work? Do you feel like the workouts were good for you? Do you think you were just okay?
There was just grit, dude. There was no skill.
Yeah, man. Even like 24.1, I regret not going to the pain cave. The normal person that I compete with, and at our gym, we're a really small gym. There's a couple guys who are like, the old 90% quarterfinal standard. There's 2 guys basically that I can count on who are 90%ers. And, when I was peaking for me, it depended on the workout. They would beat me consistently, but on the right workouts, I would beat them. And 24.1, unfortunately, and I respect the fact that you work out by yourself, because I definitely struggle with that. On 24.1, I had my nemesis. I call him my friend, my friend assist, because he's a friend. I had him right next to me, and I was just destroying him because he had a little bit of a shoulder thing, and his burpees are a little bit slower already. He's pretty tall. And I remember in my mind, like thinking, oh, look, dude, you're way ahead of him. You got a second. And like just sitting there breathing. And I was in the 9s, the higher 9s. And there's no way somebody who weighs 175 pounds should get anything in the 9s. Like you got to be in the 8s or lower. And I know you were a lot lower than that, but
you know what you did?
What I do?
You started comparing yourself to the lane next to you. You didn't run your own
100%.
race, right?
I don't think I've learned how to do that yet, to be honest with you.
It's a hard skill, but it's a skill of competing.
I think I learned that at the open. Like, I haven't, like I said, it's been like, I've been training hard for like 10 months or whatever, or started learning all the skills and stuff. So it's all very new to me. And all I know is around the open time, I got several injuries that have really nagged me, and then, kind of gone down a little bit, but I was shooting up for the open. So I'm really excited to hopefully for the injuries to heal up and for me to get back on that trajectory. Cause even though I'm masters now, there was no sign of me slowing down. So I feel like I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to go to the games or anything like that, but I want to see how I can be the best version of me, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the goal, is to find out what you're as an individual are capable of.
Yeah. Okay, so we had quarterfinals and semifinals. How did those workouts line up for you? Obviously, you did well at the Open. And how do you feel like your fitness was? Like, for instance, going into semifinals, were you more fit or have you been pretty consistent throughout? I feel like it's almost like you're not allowed to say that you weren't more fit. Like if somebody says that they kind of stay at the same fitness level, it's like frowned upon. You got to be peaking.
I'm not sure. I was definitely a little less confident going into semis. I felt like I hit like a really great stride going into quarterfinals. Like I think I might have peaked in quarterfinals and was like holding on to it through semis.
Yeah. Yep.
But luckily, I mean, they were so close together that it's very possible to hold fitness through that. And so now that that's over, I was able to like take a little time off and start working on a base now and ramp it back up for the game. So like I definitely have the capability of like peaking again.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just lucky that like I didn't peak too early.
Yeah.
So
for sure. So do you think that I'm curious what your mindset was going into it. Some people have the mindset of like they think that they're going to win no matter what, and you know maybe they take 7th, 9th, whatever.
My mindset going into.
I'm curious about your mindset going into. What I'm most curious about is, did you expect to make the games? Did you think you could make the games? But I guess let's start with semifinals. What was your expectation or your goal, whichever you prefer there?
Expectation, have none. Other than no external expectations. Let me rephrase that. I have an expectation of putting like my absolute best on the floor, and optimizing everything that I possibly can within that time frame, that weekend. But there is no expectation of like I want to finish first in this workout, I want to get a top 10 in this one. Like that's all external expectations, and there's too much uncontrolled in there. Like I can't control how fast someone runs, and like I know like I can run my fastest, but I cannot control how fast someone else runs. And so it's like you kind of know like where your strengths and weaknesses are, but regardless of what those are, like you can only call something a strength by comparing it to everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise you're like, well, how do you know whether or not it's a strength? You know it by comparing. You only know a weakness by comparing it to everybody else. If in one field my weakness is handstand push-ups, but in another field I'm competing with people who can't do handstand push-ups, then I wouldn't call it a weakness anymore, right? So like I've stopped playing the game of trying to compare myself to everybody else. So I had like no expectations of like placings, of like finishes, of like where I wanted to fall. And I tried not to think about those things. What I tried to think about was absolutely optimizing each event for myself and to run a race that I could be proud of. Yeah. And that's a challenge to do because we're in a field of competing people. And so like to not compare yourself to other people is a huge challenge. But obviously like the desire is to qualify. There is no expectation to qualify because there's too many insane athletes in the field and like too much uncontrollable there. Yep. And like the mindset is like to know that I am capable. Whether I do or I do not, I am capable of qualifying. Yep. And so let's go find out like what happens if I run my own race as best I can. Yeah.
So having the semifinals earlier for you, did you like that or did that throw you off?
Earlier, as in like compared to the
was it the semifinals that leaked? Yeah.
Dude, we had those. So
you had
the workouts.
It was like way early, wasn't it?
Oh, I hated that.
Yeah,
I did the same movements for a month, dude.
I bet. Yeah. So did you? Now this is what I'm really curious about. I know there's people out there who did the actual workouts like 3 times. Did you ever do the actual workouts, or did you work the movements into workouts?
Yeah, I did some of the workouts like 2 or 3 times. I did like the legless rope climb workout like 3 or 4 times. I did so many different versions of the run, clean, and jerk workout. Like, every possible version I could like think of, plus like the actual.
What do you mean by version?
Like
like the way you programmed it in?
400-meter run,
Yeah.
10 clean and jerks, 400-meter run, rest 2 minutes.
Yeah.
For 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Ascending weight with 400-meter run. Like, dude, I did so many running and burpee box jumps so that like I could take a break from clean and jerks, but to get the same stimulus. I tested every event at least once in its entirety.
Yeah.
But I did every single possible version of these workouts that I could think of over a month.
So my real curiosity is not just the difference between being in a competition, having your adrenaline, putting your best out there, but also there are setup issues. Like I was thinking about if I did, which one was it? I think the one with the muscle ups. Was that the last one where you did 15 ring muscle ups?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that I would enjoy doing that one. If I can't do rings right now because my shoulder, I could do bar muscle ups, but I would enjoy that one. And I was like, but if I had actually done it and just had the workout, it wouldn't be the same as on the floor because you've got all this length and stuff in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So my curiosity is, how do your times when you do those line up to what you actually got? Were they off or were they similar?
They were very similar.
Okay. So you feel like you can get a pretty good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm a better competitor than I am in training.
Yeah.
Like I typically have a like that adrenaline dump gear. But for the most part, they were very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, some were a little bit faster, some were a little bit slower, but overall similar.
So the programming has been a little bit different the last few years. I do like, I guess I like in theory, I like the, inclusive, open. I really love workouts that like 23.1 where it's a chipper and there's that separator. I feel like you can have difficult workouts where depending on what level you're at, you get stopped there. So I wish they would do a lot more of that even in the open. But quarterfinals was accessible even for me. I didn't get, I don't think I got top 50 percentile in any of them, but I beat a big chunk of people, which is fine for me. I was like, dude, if I beat 25% of the field in quarterfinals, I'm totally happy. So I feel like quarterfinals was kind of easy, but then again, I don't have the historical background as you. Has this year, everybody says it's more inclusive. Did you find that to be the case, or were the workouts still enough of a challenge for you yeah.
I understand. Yeah, I understand the question for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, I love the programming this year so far.
Nice.
I think that over the past couple of years, the path of competition was going into circus tricks a little too much, of crossover double unders and pirouettes on top of boxes and pullovers, and it was like, how many new things can we introduce in competition over a season?
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, a marathon's still exciting and everyone knows exactly what the race is.
That's right.
Right? Like track and field, everyone knows exactly what the events are, but the races are still exciting. And so it's like, I think the cool part of just having lower skill workouts is you get to see the mental aspect of competing and not so much of like the athleticism of people. Like, I definitely think like the CrossFit Games is generally a much more of a test of both fitness and athleticism than it is than like the open or quarterfinals or semis usually is.
Yep.
But like, I want to see like how bad people are willing to hurt and what that pain tolerance threshold is. And so I absolutely love the programming this season.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah, I'm excited to see what the games looks like. Last question on this, and then we'll move on so we can get you out of here. But when you train, is another thing I was curious about is you throughout the season, you see weaknesses, you see workouts that you didn't do as well on or whatnot. Is the amount of time between at this level, is the amount of time between semifinals and the games enough to actually improve on certain things? Like, I feel like getting your weight up for straight strength stuff in the amount of time, it feels like it'd probably be a waste of time. Are there things you can do to legitimately get better at weaknesses, or basically, are you at where you're at and need to maintain it?
Depends. So in terms of like skills, say like an L sit into a freestanding handstand hold on parallettes.
Yep.
Like you can get better at that because that's just like athleticism exposure. And for someone like me, where like I don't have a ton of exposure to that because it's not been necessary for me, because like I'm not going to see it up until past like a competition after semis.
Yep.
Like, I can definitely make some grounds on there. Crossover double unders, just like more exposure to that, like will make me better. So like there's certain skills where if I haven't had a lot of exposure prior to semis, having more exposure after semis and going into the games, you can definitely make some improvement. Now, am I going to put 20 pounds on my back squat? Unlikely. Am I going to improve like my 20-minute watt test on a C2 bike by, 50 watts? Unlikely. As in my max ring muscle ups, is it going to go from 15 to 20 in 2 months? Unlikely. So it's more about like continuing to train how you've been training, because the way you've been training has worked. Like you qualified based off of the fitness that you have now.
Good point.
So get more exposure to the things that you don't see all year, pegboards, yoke carries, parallel handstand push-ups, those kinds of things where you can make some improvements based off of just like more exposure.
Yep.
But don't play the game of like, okay, like I'm going to go through like a strength cycle and like a powerlifting cycle and a running cycle, and I'm going to increase my volume by 50%, because you end up just running yourself down.
Yeah.
Like it happens to newer athletes all the time. Like it happened to me twice, where like I was like, all right, I qualify for the games. I just got to like hammer down the volume.
Yeah.
And I forget that I qualified because I was already doing the right things.
Yep. So you feel like in the past at the games, you probably didn't train in such a way to put yourself in the best position.
Yeah. I mean, I showed up to the games, definitely my first year, just totally adrenally fatigued.
Yep.
And like had no gas in the tank at all.
Dang, dude.
Yeah. And there would be athletes do that all the time, man.
Yeah. Well, I know what that feeling feels like every single day. No gas in the tank. One thing that I'm going to go back to, and then we're moving on. Actually, I have a question for you. You mentioned the mental side and the fact that you like kind of conquering that pain cave and things like that.
Mm.
Do you remember specifically times, whether it be in competition or whatnot? Is there a time going back where you failed at that? I don't want to say quit, but where something broke you and you've regretted it, or do you feel like that's something all the time?
Yeah, I mean, there's always like, whether it's catastrophic or minor.
Yeah,
there's
I think
a lot
that's
of like
distinction.
Yeah. I mean, I've had judges break me in competition where I get like a few no reps, and then like I get defeated. I'm like, all right, well, like,
yeah,
I can't catch anybody now because I've gotten like 4 or 5 no reps on 30 muscle ups for time.
That's a good point.
It's like you just get like broken mentally.
Yeah.
Getting, crashed on a crit race on a bike, and your handlebars are bent 30 degrees to the left, and like you've got to like in the first lap of the race, and you're like, okay, well,
did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, 2018 games. I got T-boned by Patrick Vellner.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know it was him, dude, because like he hit me, and like I went over the handlebars. I didn't know he hit me. His chain popped off, so he ran to get a new bike. I picked my bike up and started biking. Well, I come up behind him. I was like, oh man, like someone else got crashed. Like I pulled up. I was like, hey, if we work together, if we draft off each other and work, we can catch like another group. And we ended up passing like 5 or 6 people.
That's awesome.
And then after I found out that he was the one who knocked me off the bike.
That's hilarious. I feel like something always happens during the bike. Every year there's stories about the bike.
For sure.
It's like brutal out there. All right, that's cool. All right, so we covered that. I wanted to get into the faith aspect because that's the unique aspect. What I love about CrossFit that I didn't know is like you've got Christ follower on your profile. There's a lot of people out there who are pretty upfront about their faith, and obviously the first one that comes to mind is Rich Froning, right? Because he's been doing that for a while. But my first question is, because again, I don't have the same historical background as you. CrossFit seems so different as far as like so I'm not going to get into politics, but super woke stuff can sometimes be at odds with like biblical values, depending on what it is. And I know that as a company grows and certain things that, corporate and things like that at HQ have gone in that direction. But all that aside, CrossFit's like a different crowd. There's a lot of conservatives and there's a lot of Christians. Am I off on that, or is that a thing?
It seems to be relevant to me, and I think I understand it a little bit. And there's a few different things. One of the things that you're talking about is like there are political views that want to take responsibility away from the individual.
Yes.
Responsibility for financial health, mental, all these different well-beings, when they are not the responsibility of anybody else or the government. They are the responsibility of the individual.
Yep.
And like I even say like mental, like on the mental side of things, because like, I mean, dude, going to therapy is an individual responsibility. I go to therapy as an individual because that's my responsibility to take care of that kind of health.
Yep.
Like, you take responsibility for yourself. And there are sides of things where like people don't want to take responsibility for their actions. And I don't think it's easy to walk into a gym space for you walk in there because you're taking responsibility for your health and your well-being, and it's going to be extremely challenging. And you're not looking for anybody else to walk you through this workout once a day.
Yep.
Like, you're going in there for yourself. That is a huge personal responsibility that you are taking on yourself.
Yep.
And I think that aligns with like Christian values.
Yep.
You take responsibility for your consciousness, for your conscience, for your soul, and like your well-being.
Yep.
And like, you understand that like your actions have either positive or negative effects on yourself or those around you. And the other side of it is that like this sport is not motivated by money, man, because like, there's not a lot of money in there.
Yeah.
And so like,
unless you're like the top.
Yeah. And I think that financial side of things can blur. It's really hard to maintain strong faith whenever worldly objects get in the way.
Yeah.
And so in CrossFit, where we have these insane competitors, and look, it's hard to be a good competitor and at the top of your sport without humility, without extreme gratitude, without like leaning on others. And all of those go hand in hand with having a belief in something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
And so, because like there's really not a lot of fame involved in this sport. There's not a lot of money involved in this sport.
Yeah.
It's just people who love to work hard and exercise the gifts that they've been given. Literally exercise the gifts that they've been given.
Yeah.
You probably find a higher percentage of believers in this, like in this sport, dude.
Yeah. There's also something hit me while you were talking. There's also a similarity. They're not the same because the church is obviously special, but there is a similarity between church and CrossFit in the sense of like-minded people. But not just that. You said like that there's not a ton of money. There's not a ton of fame. And that's a good point. Like I do this as a hobby, but there is an ultimate goal. I'm learning digital marketing. My friend owns a digital marketing company. There's a greater objective to have my own. I'm a recruiter by day, a headhunter for a very large company, but I want to have things that I can do my own business one day, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a purpose behind all this, but I also enjoy it. And in CrossFit, the fact that it struck me the other day, the fact that people are accessible and that there's commonality, like for instance, you're a top 40 athlete in the world. Good luck getting a top 40 NBA player to do this. Good luck getting a top 40, even golfer to do this. Right. So, and maybe it's that unique aspect of we all start at a box for the most part. And some of us work our way out of that and go towards the professional side. Yeah. But there's a strange commonality and bond between CrossFitters that's similar to what you see in the church, in that it sort of transcends age and race and all those various different things. And so I'm sure there's some sort of connection there. But just lastly, like you said, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that, but the fact that the people who are still doing CrossFit, the people who left in the first month and aren't still doing it, probably aren't going to have that mindset of personal accountability. But everybody who does CrossFit and kept doing it has to have that to some degree. And it's hard to have that, like you said, without having being anchored on something greater outside of you.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. Just a couple last questions here on that. So the one thing I'm really curious about when it comes to faith and just being grounded in who God is, biblical values, things like that. How does that affect circumstances as far as if you get defeated, embarrassed, or if you're doing really good and everybody's patting you on the back? Is there any temptation in both those different things? Like if you, outside of having that faith?
Yeah. I mean, I've had religion's played like a pretty large part in my life since I was a kid, like always. But there's definitely a side of pride that comes into competing. Like I want to look good standing on that stage. Like, even to like the freaking outfit you wear, dude. Just like I want to look good out on that floor. I want to look like an athlete. I want people to see me win. Like all of those are like internal reflections. And I've certainly struggled with that quite a bit in all forms of competing. Like wanting to succeed in an area, even like in business and work. Like wanting to succeed so that others might see my success.
Me too. I get it.
And that's been a shift that I've very much been working on over the past several months of like, and one of the things that I repeated to myself repeatedly over the weekend in California through semis was like, none of these results are actually mine. Like I have very little control over what happens this weekend. I do have control over my efforts. I have a control over how I carry myself. I have control like over all the things that I can control, but I cannot control any of these other athletes on this floor. And there are several who are capable of beating me this weekend. It's like I recognized not only in the sport of CrossFit, but like in life, it's like I can only control like the effort that I put in and like how hard I work and like how much diligence I put into my work. I can't control whether or not like you get that, you know, you get the sale, right? Or you like all of the results are actually not mine. And so like I was okay giving those away. In California. And I was like, you know, one of the things I was repeated is like, you know, if it's meant for me, like it will happen. And if it's not, that's okay. But I'm going to work my absolute hardest to exercise the gifts that I have this weekend. But in the end, it's like we don't get to keep anything down here. And so like the results actually aren't mine. And that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like it's a great, not a lot of people even admit those thoughts. Like if without you saying that, you seem like a humble guy compared to most people who are at the professional level as far as being an athlete. But then you admit that internal battle, and I have the same exact thing. And it's funny because I don't actually want that. I don't desire to have the desire to be seen. And yet it's still there, right? So if I'm not deliberate about, if I don't think about that, if I don't confront that, it's going to keep on going. You know what I mean? So I have to face it. And I'm like, oh man, I better pick up the word, like get in the Bible and remind myself, because when I don't even notice when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So
I think I let go of trying to make other people proud of me, which was a big deal for me for a long time.
Me too.
And started reflecting into a much smaller circle of like, am I proud of the things that I've done and I'm doing? And am I doing these things for the right reasons? And can I give up all of the results to someone that's not me? I can't control everything, and that's okay.
Love that, dude. That's really good. Okay. I think that's it on that side. Yeah, I think that's it, man. We'll get into the speed round here, the final part. All right. I wrote this part I wrote at the last minute, so hopefully it's not too choppy. All right. Favorite cheat meal, if you have a cheat meal.
Dude, ice cream. Like, dude, I'm a
Nice.
sucker for ice cream.
What flavor?
Ben and Jerry's fish food, bro.
Okay, I like fish food. I kind of like Cherry Garcia, but I like fish food too. This is such a gym bro question, but I had it pulled up, so I got to know. These are always off, and so I'm curious about a couple of these lifts they have on the website. Snatch, it says 275. Do you know what your snatch max is?
I've caught 285, and I came down on a knee, so I dropped it. 280 is my best snatch, though.
Nice.
Training PR 285.
Okay. And I feel like deadlift 485. You look like a guy who can deadlift more than that. Or is that accurate?
Deadlift like 495. I don't deadlift heavy often.
You don't even,
I don't like to deadlift heavy at all.
Yeah, don't, dude. I slipped a disc in like 2021 and it was brutal on a heavy lift, right? It's just something that you have to have in the tank if it comes up in competition. But
I'll work them light, high volume, but I don't do heavy anymore.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Okay. What is your either favorite workout or favorite movement? Like if you got to see something in the games, a workout that you know, or a movement.
Fight Gone Bad would be dope.
Like the original?
I'm pretty sure it's I'm pretty sure it's like an on-the-minute style workout, right?
Yeah. It's like I think the style is like it's the one with the box steps, the whole controversial thing. Yeah. Congratulations on surviving that, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And then favorite movement, dude, I don't burpee box jumps actually.
I like burpee box jumps. I did not like burpee box jumps in the quarterfinals workout. That was too many. I like them in a sprint, and that was not a sprint for me.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. So movements that you're like, oh man, like if you see it come up, there's got to be something. For me, it's thrusters. And I just started working on mobility. Like I didn't do any of that. And it's because it hurts my wrists and, kind of getting my elbow into a better position. Hate thrusters. I meme about thrusters. I do memes at least twice a week. Despise them. But this is about you. What movement do you dislike?
Least favorite workout would be the
CrossFit workout.
Total. CrossFit Total, dude.
Yeah.
Just miss me with that,
I've never done it, and I've seen it, and I don't really ever want to do it.
Not a powerful athlete.
I hear it. Is there a movement you hate? That's what I really want to know.
Strict muscle ups.
Oh,
we don't like high skill stuff.
We haven't seen those in a while, have we? At the games, have they?
I think they were too hard to judge.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Cool. All right, and we actually kind of touched on the new. So this one we already hit. It was new CrossFit Open style or old style. And then this is the last question, man. And I think I know the answer. It's similar to me. Don't worry, I ain't judging you either. We're both Christians here, but it don't matter what you listen to at the gym. Music, hit me with it.
Country.
Really? I thought I hear you with the rap, like, or maybe that's just good for like.
Dude, I either listen to like country music, or I listen to funk, like PHUNK, funk.
Yeah, funk.
Like, just like techno. Rave type music. It's either slow country or it's that.
But is that what you work out to?
Slow country, bro, all the time.
I couldn't even do that. I have like all my songs. I've set up my songs like during the open. I had my projections of where I was going to be at, and I had my songs. I was like, all right, if this hits right at this spot, I'm going to be like in the zone.
Dude, it's funny actually. This morning I did 50 minutes at like holding a certain wattage on the bike.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes into it, like I'd been listening to like a country playlist the whole time. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to make it through this. And I took my phone and put on like the funk playlist and it started like bumping. And I was like, all right, let's go. We can do this now.
That's awesome. Yeah. I wouldn't do it outside of working out. It's a little bit explicit for me, but the song I always had, and I don't like to wear it out, so I only use it for like if it's like the Open or something like that.
Yeah.
I have it timed so that the last song to play is Limp Bizkit, Break Stuff.
Yeah.
And man, that's put me in the pain cave. That's the one where it comes on and I go way too hot. I'm in front of the fan, like spasming.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it, man. What could we, anything coming out that we can look forward to? I know that I saw some of the like $1,500, like you had the prizes and the competitions and stuff. Anything, obviously you're playing for the games, but anything new coming out from EMOM before the games at all?
Man, we're always doing challenges and stuff. We just gave away $500 this last week.
Yeah, I saw that.
So we're always doing challenges. We've got
Cool.
a Garmin we need to give away, a couple barbells from Hero we need to give away.
Nice.
I think we're going to give away a Haven backpack, some Tier shoes. We got a lot of giveaways coming up.
And so people know, it's not going to be a ton of people, but a couple hundred will watch this. So people know, you've got a 7-day trial period, right? And is
Always.
this still, am I incorrect in this? I read something a while back that said there was a time where you were doing daily workouts that weren't part of the program that was there ever an aspect of the program that you didn't have to sign up for, or has it always been?
So we didn't always sell the program.
Okay. Got it.
Everything was just through Instagram. And I would just post workouts onto Instagram.
Kind of how it started.
That's how it started.
Okay.
And I never wanted to sell it, but it grew enough to where enough people started asking. I was like, well, maybe there's a market for it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Cool. All right. So we got that. We got some competitions coming up for that. We got you in the games. What is it? August 8th?
Yes, sir.
August 8th. And then the shirt, or where can they get that? It's not selling right now, but it will again.
We still have a lot of merch for the EMOM company. It's all on the emomcompany.com.
Perfect.
You can see it through our Instagram too.
Awesome.
Yeah. We got some shorts coming out that are going to be sick as well. So.
Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah. All right. I'll have to check those out, man. Well, hey man, I appreciate your time. I will be at the games. So if I see you, I will say what's up, and
absolutely.
Good luck, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one.
Yes, sir.